I mentioned in a previous video that the Element was having a little bit of an oil leak issue, and I took it to a mechanic, a local mechanic here in town the other day, and he looked at it, did some work on it. They did the valve cover gasket, I believe it was. But this morning I'm waking up and there is still oil on my parents' driveway underneath the Element. There's a little bit, not too much, a couple of drops here and there that come out overnight. So there's definitely something more to this oil leak. I think it might be the VTEC solenoid. I know somebody had mentioned that in the comments on the last video, and I think that there's a seal in there that's starting to go. It's a pretty common Honda issue. I think that's what I was trying to talk about in the last video, but just didn't really know because I hadn't done my research. But pretty sure that's what it is. The mechanic said that could also be it. So I'm just at this crossroads here now, guys, where I know the Element needs to have this issue addressed. I know that there are other issues as well with the suspension and just basic maintenance, ball joints, things like that, where I'm going to have to put a lot of money into it to get it so that it's, I guess, a good vehicle to drive across the country and to have for years to come. And I kind of want something bigger at the same time. I kind of want to upgrade to a bigger van. I know I had touched on that when I was in Chicago looking at that really rusty, awful van, and I kind of want to get something else. So I'm at this crossroads where I have to make a decision if I want to start investing money into the Element or if I want to start looking for something bigger. It's not that I have anything against the Element, obviously. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's going to be my favorite vehicle probably for the rest of my life. But at the same time, I want something more than the Element at some point in the future. I want to be able to have a desk setup like this. I've kind of taken over my parents' dining room here and made it into my office. And it's made me realize, like, I would really like to have, like, my own desk setup to be able to work at in my vehicle and to be able to not have to go to Starbucks every single time I need to edit videos for 10 hours or whatever it may be. And at the same time, I also would like to have a bed in the back that I don't have to set up every night and break down and set up and keep doing that over and over again. It'd be great if it was just always there in the back of the van going crosswise that I'd be able to just climb into and go to sleep when it's time to go to bed at night. And I'd like to be able to cook inside my vehicle more frequently and more easily, have more space to be able to do that and not have to eat out so much. I mean, there are trade-offs with the Element versus having a more RV-style custom cargo van or whatever it may be. Obviously, there's a difference between want and need, and I don't necessarily need a new vehicle right now. I could put a little bit of money into the Element, get it so that it's safe to drive and ready to go, and I'll be able to take it across the country, and it'll be fine. But at the same time, like I said before, I would like to at least explore the option of getting something else. Now, obviously, I'm in a little bit of a tough position here in Massachusetts. Like, you don't really want to buy anything that's too old in Massachusetts because it's part of the Rust Belt. Like, anything that's super old is probably going to have a lot of rust issues underneath. So I have to be very mindful of that. You know, my original plan was to go out to California, save as much money as I could over the next 6 months or so, and then buy something cash out in California that hasn't been exposed to crazy snow or crazy rust or salt on the roads or anything like that, and then go from there. Something as old as like a Chevy G20 would be really nice, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that here in Massachusetts. So my option here would be to buy something newer. And part of me also kind of agrees with buying something a little bit newer because I'm going to be spending money on the conversion itself, putting in new, a bed and building all this furniture and spending money on it, paneling, flooring, stuff like that. That's gonna add up. And if I'm spending all that money on the conversion, it makes sense to have something that's newer that's going to last longer and be more reliable, at least in the short term and hopefully in the long term. So that's kind of where I am with that. And so if I'm going to do something, it's going to be like a 2013 or newer more than likely. I'm going to have to finance it, which I'm not really that comfortable with. Like, I don't like the idea of taking on more debt, but at the same time, I know that I'm going to pay it off as quickly as I can, and I'll have something that I'm just going to be working towards trying to get rid of that debt, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and just pay it off as soon as I can, and I'll have a newer vehicle that'll hopefully last a longer time. So that's kind of where I am with this, and I've explored a few different options, and I guess we're going to talk about those a little bit right now. All my camera batteries are dead here. I accidentally forgot to charge them after I shot that last wedding, and now I have like 5% in each one, so I'm like changing them for each individual shot. But anyways, the option that I've pretty much narrowed it down to here is a cargo van. I want to have a clean slate. I want to be able to build something custom on my own that I can have that'll fit my exact needs and just be able to go from there. And by the way, another reason that I am so at least considering doing something right now is because I'm here in Massachusetts and my grandfather lives here in Massachusetts. He's an incredibly talented carpenter. He helped me with the element conversion, and I haven't actually asked him if he would help me with this project yet, but I'm assuming that he will, and I'm hoping that he would be willing to help me out. And I'm here for the next 3 weeks, no matter what happens, hanging out with family, helping my parents move to a new place. We're in the process of doing that. So it's just, I know, I feel like this is like a perfect time for me to be able to do this. If I'm out in California in the spring or whatever and I don't have access to tools or anyone to help me with it, it'd be a lot more difficult to convert a van out there on my own. So I'm not really planning to come back to Massachusetts, at least not for the foreseeable future. So I think now would be the time to do something like this. And yeah, in terms of options, there are a couple of cargo vans that I definitely do not want to go with, one of them being the Mercedes Sprinter. I am not a fan of the diesel engine. They're expensive and they're expensive to maintain. I probably can't even afford one in my budget anyways here, so that's definitely out. Another option that is out is the Ram ProMaster. I know some people really like them, but at the same time, I've read some really awful reviews about the Ram ProMasters, in particular with like even just minor issues going wrong. You have to take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic has to be like an actual Chrysler dealership because there is proprietary technology in there that only allows them to work on it, and that's something that definitely worries me, to have to take it to them and spend an arm and a leg. Plus the parts, a lot of them are Fiat, so that's also going to make things more expensive, similar to why Mercedes or BMW or whatever, why those parts are so expensive as well. So don't really want to go with that. The other options that I really like though, and there's only like 4, right, or 3 if you even count. If you count the GMC Savannah and Chevy Express option as 1 or 2, I guess it depends on your opinion, but it's pretty much the same thing. That's an option. So that cargo van, that traditional style cargo van, has been around forever. Some of those engines, I believe the 8-cylinder one in particular, is really solid. People tend to have pretty good reviews about it. So that's definitely an option. Ford Series, like an E-Series van, would be possible. They stopped making them in 2014 though, so I'd have to look a little bit older, and that's starting to get now towards the too old area when you're thinking about the Rust Belt and stuff like that. So I don't know how much I'm going to be okay with going with a Ford Series van, but maybe a 2013 or 2014 would work. My favorite of all the options though is the Nissan NV2500. I really like the size of it overall. I like that most of them already have high tops built in. There's actually one just down the street from me. It's about 10 miles away, so we're probably gonna go take a look at that at the end of this video together, and hopefully just if at the very least just to get an idea of what they look like and how much space I have to see, to see exactly what I could do with that space with the high top, to see how much I can stand up and stuff. I think that would be pretty cool, but that's definitely an option as well. Nissan has an excellent warranty if you can find one for, it's a 2015 and 2016 with lower miles on it. It's still going to be under their bumper-to-bumper 5-year, 100,000 mile warranty. So that would be pretty cool, especially for something that I'm considering financing. But those are my options, really. There's only 4. Maybe a Ford Transit, also something that I would consider. But what I'm not really considering is the smaller stuff. The Ford Transit Connect, the ProMaster City, the Chevy Express City, or whatever Chevy calls that, NV200 even, the Nissan NV200. Not really considering those options. I think that going with something that small wouldn't really be that much bigger than the Element. I mean, it's only like it's like literally like 2 feet bigger than the Element inside. Don't really necessarily know if that would eliminate my have to set up the bed and break down the bed and stuff, that kind of thing. I think I would have to still do that inside an NV200. Well, even though I really do like the NV200, I know I've talked about that in a lot of videos in the past, and I like that it's easy to drive, like that it gets excellent gas mileage. I love the Recon camper style setup. If I were to go with an NV200, I would absolutely get a pop top on it and make it like a Westfalia style. If you haven't seen the Recon campers out in California, those things are so cool. They're definitely pretty neat. So that would be maybe an option to go with. You can get NV200s for like super cheap, like $15,000 for one that's like basically new with a few thousand miles on it. Definitely not a bad deal for a vehicle that's got 4 years left on its warranty and 80,000 miles left on the warranty. So that would be possibly an option, but I think ideally I would go with something a little bit bigger, NV2500, Chevy Express, maybe Ford E-Series or Ford Transit. Getting cold outside. You can definitely tell that winter is coming. It is not nearly as warm as it has been around here. Might even be like in the 50s right now. I have a feeling I'm going to be very ready to head south in the next few weeks. There it is. I think the height of this thing would fail to comply with like city parking regulations in California. I think it's 7'2", and this thing is definitely taller than that. I'm also a little worried about it. I looked underneath, and there was a lot of rust on this van for being a 2013. Did definitely come to the right place to look at cargo vans though. There's an NV200 here, the 2500 there, there's a ProMaster here, a Transit here, and there's a GMC Savannah. Actually 2 GMC Savannahs right here. So I could definitely get a good idea for sizes at the very least. There's no denying that the space inside the ProMaster is definitely the largest. I mean, this thing isn't even a high top one. And like, I can almost stand up in this thing. Like, I'm very close. I mean, obviously there would be padding on the roof and on the floor as well, you know, for insulation and whatnot, but like, this thing is huge. Actually, most of these vans have some signs of rust and wear underneath. I didn't realize the amount of damage that a single New England winter can do, but even like the 2017 Savannah over there, there's like little sections where rust is starting to form. There's probably more rust on the undercarriage of that 2017 van than there is on the Element, which is like 15 or 16 years old at this point. I realize it's just surface rust and that it's probably okay, you know, not really too much to worry about as long as it's not too bad, but at the same time, it's like, if I'm spending that much money on a vehicle, like, do I really want it to have rust underneath? I mean, rust only gets worse over time. It certainly doesn't get better, so I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's the right call necessarily. I'd be more comfortable maybe buying something completely new or just going with my original plan and waiting it out for another 6 months and getting something out west. So I kind of slept on the decision last night and have come to the same conclusion that I came to the last time I was considering buying a van. It's not the time. It's just not the time yet to do this. You know, going to the dealership yesterday was very helpful. Getting the chance to see the size of some of those vans and how they compare to the Element, which is a lot smaller. Like, I didn't even realize how much smaller the Element is compared to some of these cargo vans. Like, these things are huge. Even like the Chevy Express is really big, but something that I'm going to have to get used to driving for sure, which I'm not that worried about, but then also just knowing the amount of space that I'm going to have to work with when I do finally decide to do this. But what I did learn is that they are also very expensive, these vans, and I'm not really willing to finance something unless it is very close to new. I don't think that it's a good idea to finance a 4 or 5 year old van that already has a bunch of rust on the undercarriage, and I'm going to be paying off for 48 months or 60 months or whatever it may be. I mean, I could start having some serious problems with it by the time I get to the end of that loan, and just, it doesn't really make sense. The only thing I'd really be willing to finance would be like an NV200. It's really the only thing that I can afford, and that's really not that much of an upgrade compared to the Element. You know, it would be nice to be able to get a pop top on it at some point and so on, like I said before, but I don't know if I'm going to make this change and make this lifestyle change and move into something that is bigger. I don't want it to be only 1 foot bigger. I want it to be a lot bigger than that. I want to be able to have a lot more space to work with. So right now, the best decision is the original one, and that's to put some money into the Element. I'm going to take it to the mechanic in a few hours here and have him get started on this project, and I'll probably also maybe try to do some of it myself. I'm going to try to figure out what it is that I feel comfortable with. The issue is I don't really have that many tools. I don't have jack stands or even really a jack or anything like that. I don't really have much of anything. So I probably should be investing in some of those tools for the future, because the likely option here is that I'm going to get out to California maybe in the spring, by then save up enough money, and like I said before, buy an older used van that's in good shape, cash, and then probably going to have to work on that at some point in the future. So having tools wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. So this is what I'm thinking about. This is kind of where I am with this whole thing. I hope this video was helpful for some of you guys maybe considering different van options like I was, and I guess we'll see where it goes. But thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all in the next one.